For more, we want to bring in New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, good to have you. Thank you for being here. We don't really even want to call it an anniversary or anything. It's just we remember because for Israel, this is their 9/11. But this struck all of us in such deeply personal ways. What do you make of President Trump's efforts for peace in the Middle East, and what do you predict for later today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And this is obviously a horrible day of remembrance. But we have to remember, I grew up, from the boomer generation. I couldn't conceive that we would ever have the anti-Semitism that we're seeing in our communities. I never thought we would ever look to and have a moment in time again. This is the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. I never thought I'd wake up to seeing colleges and universities having meetings to talk about Gaza and promoting Hamas, backed by Iran, a terrorist proxy and terrorist regime. I never thought I'd see that, but here we are. It's a horrible situation. We have terrorists still held by Hamas, starving, holding hostages, starving. Many of you know are just remains, but people hoping and praying every day that President Trump is going to come up with a peace deal. And that's the thing that I think is most important. President Trump really wants peace in the Middle East. He wants prosperity for everyone, regardless of your religious or your religious affiliation or your ethnicity. He wants to see our Arab, Christian, and Jewish neighbors living together in peace. And I feel that there's no one who's been in such an important role that actually exemplifies that as President Trump does. And you've seen it through the Abraham Accords. You know that Jared Kushner has been sent over along with Representative Wickoff to go, and he's been our envoy to find a way to get Hamas to peace. I'm a little bit skeptical. I think that Israel is fighting our war. They're fighting our war to protect freedom and Western civilization. And these people are standing in the way. But I do think President Trump is really using harsh terms. He's given them a few extra days to consider the peace deal. I'm not sure they ever will. But we have a huge, the big problem is if we get a peace deal, how do we maintain it and how do we keep it going forward so that we move ourselves away from the horrible, the horrible situation that we find ourselves in, where most of the people in Gaza, want to see a destruction of Israel. And how do we and Jewish neighbors?
No, it's such a great point. And, President Trump definitely there for such a time as this. And, now that the Arab nations, many of them are starting to come on board, and Jared Kushner involved, and, Witkoff has done a great job, that may be hopefully the saving grace in all this. And by the way, a quick statistic on this: 10 million or so Israelis, 10 million over in Israel, 340 million here in America. So we have 34 times more people than Israel. They lost 1,195 people on that day. You take that times 34, that means it's basically like 40,000 Americans dying on one day. And if you just wrap yourself around that figure, it's just, how do you even wrap your head around that figure? All right, we've got to move on, Congresswoman, but Senate Democrats once again voted to keep the government closed. That's what they did. They extended the shutdown. Here's what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had to say to Democrats before the vote. Take a look.
Democrats in 2025 are for illegal aliens first and Americans last. This is the reality we are unfortunately facing right now in Washington, D.C. President Trump and Republicans will not give in to these radical demands. The president and Republicans have a sacred responsibility to serve and protect the interests of their constituents, the American people. That's why we are backing a clean and nonpartisan funding bill with no strings attached to reopen the government. Democrats should do what they did 13 separate times under Joe Biden and vote for this exact same type of funding bill.
Congresswoman, how does it end, and when does it end?
The facts are tough, aren't they, on the Democrats? Look, I think this is a problem. I'm from New York, so you see the two people holding up the works here are two people that were hatched in the New York State Assembly. Hakeem Jeffries used to sit next to me, Chuck Schumer long ago. Weak leadership, people who come from, a blue state where they never really have to face any kind of any kind of pushback. They never have to compromise because the Democrats have veto-proof majorities. They always have to play this game, and this game is now in the big stage, and they're looking foolish, in my opinion. And it's the same old story. They're making the same stupid play that they would play in the legislature that doesn't work on the national stage. And yet, look at our own state. All you need to do is look at the incubator, the blueprint for what not to do. New York State, and they keep saying you'll see Hakeem and Chuck Schumer get out and bold-faced lie on the floor of either the House or the Senate and talk about how we're not using federal tax dollars for illegal immigrants. Au contraire, we have $230 million we spend every single year right now on illegal immigrants 65 and over, plus over $1 billion that we spend on illegal immigrants in the state of New York, under that amount. And by the way, it's all using federal taxpayer dollars that come in through Medicaid funds that are put through the state system, passed on to our local governments. And by the way, the only state in the country where we require our local governments to pay for the Medicaid share is New York State. 25% of that Medicaid share gets paid by our local governments. It's why places like where I live in upstate New York, Oswego County, where I live, we pay among the highest property taxes based on percentage of value. We pay more than Westchester. We pay more than Long Island. We are forced to do that because there is no respect for upstate New York taxpayers. And this is mega country up here. This is very strong Trump Republicans all over upstate New York where I live. And they don't care about us because they care about Zohran Mamdani over their shoulder, the head of the Democratic Socialists of America, derived by Marxism, talking about defund the police, talking about socialist ideas, which are really communist ideas, talking about anti-Semitism. And that's who Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are looking out for, not the vast majority of New Yorkers who are paying for this. And it's a disaster on a huge level for upstate New York. And this is what you get. You get weak leadership, people like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries that think they can go lie every single day in the House and the Senate floor and not have bad results. This is going to end badly for the Democrats, and you're seeing the polling continue to look bad for them.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Congresswoman.